Hello fellow book nerds! It has been a while, but it is my first video of the new year, so I thought why not talk about the year that's passed. Today's video is going to be all about my favorite books of 2019, which I'm very excited about. It was a good reading year and I read 92 books and I have 10 of my favorites here. They're not really in an order, so don't worry about it. We're just going to talk about some of my favorite books. Let's start with The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hoover. So this book is really interesting, kind of sci-fi fantasy, kind of Groundhog Day concept. I talked about it a lot because I really liked it. Our main character wakes one day not knowing who he is or where he is or who are people around him, and he finds himself at a party, and at night Evelyn Hoover, one of the hostesses, commits suicide and he is tasked with figuring out what happened, why she died, and then every day he wakes up in a new body and a new identity and all that, and he has to kind of approach the situation differently, and slowly he uncovers what is up and what's happening. It's a really trippy novel, but I really enjoyed it and I'd really recommend it if you enjoy the Groundhog Day thing. I heard there's some issues with how obesity is portrayed, but it is a minor part, so if you can look over that. I did really enjoy the book, so I highly recommend it. Then we have Winterwood. So I read Winterwood for this book club and I loved it. I vlogged my experience, which I'll link above and below. I really loved it. I was surprised how much I liked it. It was really fun. It's a story about a girl who comes from a long line of witches, but kind of low-level witches, kind of like more of a feeling kind of witch, and she lives in a little cottage that is snowed in. A boy has gone missing from school for delinquent boys that's nearby, and she finds him one day. It's a really interesting story because it's all like you're in this little cottage that's snowed in. It just really contained, there's a very limited number of characters, but it's interesting. I thought it was done well. It has some tropes that I was not expecting, kind of a mystery element going on. So if you're into that kind of thing, I highly recommend it. It's from Earnshaw, I believe, who's also the author of Wicked Deep that I have not read, but I heard some nice things about it. Then I've read Sadie. So Sadie is a really interesting one. I really recommend the audiobook for this because it is told in this form of podcast. So the podcast tells the story of Sadie, because Sadie, something happened and she has gone missing, and the podcast kind of following her journey and where she could have gone and is looking for her, and then we also hear a little bit from Sadie. So audiobook is perfect for this. It's a really heartbreaking story. There's some warnings for this, so be careful and check it out before you dive in, but it is a really impactful, amazing story. I really enjoyed it and definitely one of my favorites. Next up we have Sorcerer Forms by Margaret Rogerson. So Sorcerer Forms kind of came out of surprise. It's a fantasy standalone. I just bought it for hype and I loved it. It's one of my favorite books of the year. Thus it's in this video.
It tells the story of a girl who is kind of a master at a craft, painting, and one day she paints and in this world there's also fae, so she paints a fae prince and she paints sorrow in his eyes, which is a big no-no because faes are not supposed to have human emotions, and it kind of stirs up some stuff.
I really enjoy. I just described the wrong book. So Sorcerer Forms tells the story of Elizabeth, who is an orphan and she was brought up in a library, and in this world some books are magical, so they're called grimoires, and they contain spells of all the sorcerers, and they kind of can talk, they can communicate, kind of interact. She's a librarian at this library and there's some mystery going on and she has to help to solve it. So it's really interesting. If you are a reader, which I assume you are if you're watching this, I'd really recommend it. I think it's really cute. Good because it's a standalone, you know, sometimes you need a little bit of fantasy, but maybe not the 5-10 volumes of fantasy. So I'd highly recommend it, maybe if you're new to fantasy or you're a big fan of reader or just want to have a good time, quick time. Next up we have Six of Crows by Lee Bardugo. So this is a companion novel to the Shadow and Bone series. You don't have to read it, but I really would, because it describes the world much more than this. This kind of assumes that you know what is up and what the magic is and stuff like that. It's kind of a heist novel, a group of ragtags, you know, trying to basically pull off a heist. If you're into heist, I'm not that much into heist, but I love this. It was written so well, it was so fast-paced, and the characters are amazing. I think everyone's favorite part is the characters, honestly. They've written so well. And then if you're enjoy Shadow and Bone, I would definitely give this a chance because it's so much better and you can really see the improvement in writing, the characters, the world making, it's just amazing. I cannot wait to read the sequel, Crooked Kingdom, and I just highly recommend it. Please read it, it's so good. Next up we have Cersei by Madeline Miller. So Cersei is kind of a mythology retelling. If you know Cersei from the Odysseus myths, she was kind of a minor part in that, but here she is the main character and it just kind of follows the story of her. It was really an amazing read because you feel the passage of time and you feel the immortality. It was so amazing. The writing in this is just breathtaking. I don't know, it really spoke to me and really made me think about mortality and what it takes out of you to be more immortal, you know, how that would kind of affect you. So I just thought this was an amazing read and I really enjoyed it. Next up we have The Seven Deaths of Evelyn Hoover. Everyone loves it, everyone and their mother loves it. It tells the story of Evelyn Hoover, who was a starlet. It's kind of a historical fiction, but not what you think historical fiction is at all. And she was really popular, really famous, like think Marilyn Monroe level of famous, and it kind of tells the story of her life and her 7 husbands. It's a really thought-provoking read, really good representation in there. It means a lot to a lot of people, I think, for good reasons, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. It was not what I expected and I cannot wait to read Daisy Jones. I just keep postponing it, worried I'm not gonna love it as much. Next up we have $10,000 of January by Alex E. Harrow. So thank you so much to Nicole because this was her gift for Christmas and I just think it's so breathtaking. So thank you so much, Nicole. Please subscribe to her. She's the most generous person you will ever meet. So nice and fun and her videos are full of life. But this was one of my favorite books of the year and a total surprise. I was not expecting to love this as much as I did. I read this for a buddy read with Kira and Alyssa. I'll link their channels down below as well. I don't have very flowery lyrical writing, I don't enjoy that kind of thing, but this was amazing. So much heart in it and the writing was breathtaking, and I think I wrote something like a lot of metaphors at the beginning, but it just really spoke to me. It tells the story of January, who is raised by kind of a surrogate father figure, has grown up in this high society. She herself is kind of mixed race and she stumbles upon doors to a different dimension or different world. So it's kind of a portal fantasy, but honestly it's so beautiful. It's a story about growing up, finding yourself, finding your family, your place within it. I think it's also standalone, I believe, and I really hope it is because it's perfect. I don't want to ruin it anyway. It's just so good. I cannot wait to read it this year, so thank you, Nicole, again, because now I have and I can hold it in my hands and just like stare at it and love it, you know. It's a beautiful gift. And please everyone read it. This did not get enough hype. Next up we have the Nevernight Trilogy by J. Kristoff. This is Dark Dawn, the last book, but the other 2 I listened to on audiobooks, so I don't have them. Boy oh boy, was this an experience. I read the first book sometime in the summer, the second one was shortly after. This one took me ages to get through because I put so much pressure on myself on this book, which is just not fair. But Nevernight tells the story of Mia, who lives in this kind of Roman-esque world, and she wants to become an assassin, and she goes to a top assassin school in this world to get revenge for her familia who were brutally murdered. This is an amazing story of Mia, who's growing up just so full of rage and vengeance and nothing by that, but by the end she finds so much more. And if you like gore, there's so much gore, sex, swearing, just so much. It's an adult novel, so definitely be careful if you're a younger reader. The writing can be a bit tricky to get into first. There's footnotes, which, yes, I know, this isn't like a philosophy book. I don't know why there's footnotes, but they work. I think they work. I enjoy them, you know. I listened to an audiobooks, they didn't bother me as much, so, you know, take this with a grain of salt, but I did enjoy it a lot and I'd recommend it. Now that the series is finished, you really can just binge read it, kind of, although it might be hard because it's not easy to get through. Really recommend the whole trilogy, but especially Nevernight and God's Grave, I think, up there on my top favorites of the year, so highly recommend. And the last book I have to recommend is Becoming by Michelle Obama. So I read this really early in the year and I listened to the audiobook, which was amazing because she's the one narrating it. Honestly, I did not expect for this book to have as much impact on me as it did. It's an autobiography told by Michelle Obama, so it's not fiction, which who would have thought? One of my basically top book of 2019 is a non-fiction. Michelle Obama is just a very inspiring figure anyway. This story just made me know her so much better, and the fact that she also struggled with what to do with her life. Is she enough? And she stumbled and she changed it, and you know, like, it's just so human. And you don't think of these like stars or just political figures or public figures in general to be having such mundane issues, but they do. They're human, you know. We all struggle a little bit, and I think I was in a hard place when I read it. I was a bit lost, and I just read it in such a perfect time, and I enjoyed it so much. It was, honestly, I think I read it in January, but it stuck with me, and it'll be one of my favorite books of all time. Yeah, I highly recommend it. Check it out, you know, guys. It's amazing, and if you're feeling a little bit lost, I especially recommend it. Okay guys, this is it for my favorite reads of 2019. I feel so out of practice with this whole filming thing, so if it's a bit weird, I'm sorry. That's my favorite reads. Please tell me yours in the comments. I really love to know. I watched so many favorite videos, and everyone has such different opinions. No, I think it's magical. So let's share. Tell me yours, and thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in my next video, and I'm saying bye now.